just moved out of my 2019 Freightliner Cascadia that I had for a few years. I got that one brand new and moved into this 2021 Kenworth T680. And I just want to do kind of a comparison and a little tour of the 2021 KW. And the first thing I noticed right away when I got this truck, there isn't as much room, that is for sure. My Cascadia was an automatic, and I kind of like the automatics. I will say right off with this truck, this Kenworth, this truck drives better, it rides smoother, it has a lot more power, but overall the automatic just makes my day a lot easier, a lot less shit I gotta deal with. Now obviously I could have chosen to put my phone in a different spot, right? But I prefer mine down over on the dash like that. I don't like them up on the windshield, and I don't like to hit my phone with my left hand. It's just how I roll. But even if I did have my phone in a different spot, because as you can see my phone is in the way of the light switches, I don't quite understand why we got to have 4 light switches to turn on all the lights in the truck. That doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense to me. The Cascadia just had 1 switch over on the left. So it's small time, but it's a little bit of a pain in the ass reaching over here and doing these switches all the time. I will say this deal here with their display is not the best setup. You scroll through all your shit, but it's kind of a pain in the ass, because myself, I like to use my tripometer, and you only have so many options of what you can have up. Well, I always have up the speedometer. My thing is, every time I shut the truck off and restart it, it goes back to tachometer. So let's say I start it and it's right here. I gotta scroll through all this shit, get over here to tachometer, hit this button, scroll to speedometer. But like every morning or every time if I pull up at a guard shack or something and I shut the truck off, it resets back to that. And I like the way they got it set up to move your CB in and out. Now if you had a bigger CB, that wouldn't work so well. I recently actually just bought this little Cobra 18 because I had a 19 for years. It still works, but just coincidentally I happened to get this, otherwise my 19 wouldn't fit in here. But I like the way you just flip that button, you pull it out, you got all your wiring and shit in there. You just screw the knobs, plug it in, strap it down, and tuck all your wiring back. Slide it in so you don't gotta mess around with your CB. And it comes with whips out on the mirrors, which is kind of a thing because the Freightliner Cascadia comes with a rooftop CB antenna that is, how do you say it, a piece of shit. It doesn't work good at all. So I spent actually probably like $280, and that's being cheap about it, just to get a basic CB, because I had to buy a bracket to go on the side of the mirror out there. That was $40. I had to get the coax, I had to get the antenna in the mount, and then I had to put it all on and just run the wire across the dashboard that kind of looked like shit. But I needed a CB. So this was more plug and play when I got into it. I just hooked my shit up, and then the CB works quite well actually. The carpet, I'm not a big fan of carpet in my truck. Now it is comfy and cozy on my bare feet, but it's not very practical, because in the winter and in dirty parking lots and so on and so on, a lot of times I have to jump up in here, and I will stand up like where I'm at right now and put my coat on before I get out of the truck, because it's kind of hard to do when you're sitting over there in that seat. Or I'll stand up here and take my coat off, or I'll have to come back here in the bunk and do something, and I'm tracking the dirt and mud into this carpet all the time, to where my Freightliner was just a rubber floor, and I could get it muddy and just wipe it down with glass cleaner or some sort of cleaner every time it got dirty. So that was a lot easier to deal with. It does have heated seats. That was something that I've never seen in a rig before, and it's kind of a funny story behind that is when I first got in it, I couldn't figure out why I was so fucking hot and I was sweating, and I realized that this truck has heated seats in it. So I turned it off and life was better, but I do use them when I first get in the truck for the week. I wasn't sure about the refrigerator at first. I've never seen one of these drawer style refrigerators. I do actually like it now. The freezer's a little bit bigger than my Freightliner was, so I could carry a little bit of ice cream with me. My Freightliner was over on this side. I could still reach my Freightliner refrigerator from my driver's seat, but I would keep all my sodas and Monster in the door of it, because I could just barely reach over, open the door, and then I could pull out a Monster or a soda, and then on the top shelf of the door I would keep like cheese or whatever I wanted to eat. On my Freightliner there was a cabinet right here that opened up that way, and that's where I kept all my water, and I couldn't get it. So if I got up in the morning and I forgot to put a couple waters over in the door, then I had to pull over and stop and come back here and get some water, which I did a bunch of times. I got this drawer down here, and that's where I keep all my water, so I can also reach that while I'm driving down the road. The table, that's one of this, two of that, and I'll get into that in a second. That's probably the biggest thing that either I like or it bothers me. I can't quite figure that out yet. The microwave spot's pretty much the same as my Freightliner. But one thing it doesn't have that my Freightliner had is my Freightliner right here had a wall mount for my flat screen that was on the swivel arm that I could swing over that way or this way, and I really like that. Obviously I have no TV in here right now because I originally tried putting my flat screen on this deal that they got here, and it's pretty hard to strap it down. The storage is not good at all in comparison to the Cascadia. There's nowhere near the amount of room in here. There's not much room up there in the overhead, and then of course you have one more on this side, the same size. Then you have this cabinet, which I guess you would consider your main cabinet or your shower bag or whatever you want, but it does have the clothes bar up there. You can hang some shirts up. I'm not quite that fancy. And then off over here to the side, they got some more shelves where I keep my cleaning supplies because that's about the best place I could find. And there's a mirror, which is a little bit nice in the morning. You wake up and see how bad you look. There is a fair amount of storage space down here. Enough to keep all your food and supplies in. There's more storage space up here on the top. And same thing here on the other side. I keep my coats and shit up there. So the table, outside of the area where I drive, being a little bit small, the table was the thing I had to get used to because the space between the table and this cabinet right here is not very much. And it makes you feel a little claustrophobic. Very much room that you got to do like the James Brown turnaround back here. Obviously, if you have it flipped over like this, there's more room, like a Freightliner, sort of, but the Freightliner has a really big cabin. I mean, you could put a damn stripper pole on a Freightliner. It's a hell of a lot bigger. And the thing is with the table over like that, you can't open the bunk. So I get underneath the bunk to get a lot of shit out during the day. It's kind of an issue. I always have the table over this way. But I will say that versus the slide out table that the Freightliner offers, there's a hell of a lot more room on here. Like, I can put my laptop on here, my mouse, and I can still have room to eat dinner and everything while I'm screwing around on my computer. So I do like the table. It is nice. Myself, I sit on the bunk side, but this seat does flip around. But before I just turned the camera back on, I just spent like quite a few minutes trying to get the seat belt to release, and you have to have the seat all the way forward in order for it to spin in there. It's not an easy deal at all to do. I could see if you were going to be on like a 34-hour restart or something like that, down for the weekend, you might want to flip it around and use it. And then obviously it takes up all that space in there to get back and forth. It is comfortable. I have used it like that a few times when I was on my laptop, but I tell you what, it's a real pain in the ass to get it to spin around. Alright, now we'll go underneath the bunk, and of course you got to have this slid over in this direction when you're under the bunk, which limits your amount of space that you have right here to move around and get down there. So as you can see right away, it's pretty much limited space. You know, if you've been trucking for a while, you remember back before we had all this Thermo King shit, which I will say it is nice to have the APU and stuff. I'm not complaining about that. But originally when this truck was built, this area here, all this here, would have been storage space. And that's all the Thermo King shit. So there ain't really much room. This one over here would have been in the truck anyway because that's part of the sleeper berth climate system. And then I realized this right here is a subwoofer box. Alright, well, I don't know about that myself. I mean, I like some good music and I like my subwoofers and stuff, but I think I'd rather have that out of here and have the space. I don't really need that subwoofer box taking up that much room. It does come standard with the big inverter. Every truck I've had lately has those in there. and that is really nice. That wasn't always the thing. You used to have to buy your own inverter, and they're kind of expensive, and they're not nearly as good as this one. And then you have the lower windows. I don't use those very often. But these come up, they roll up like this. That window also opens, and it has a screen in it, but I've honestly never used it before. I've used the one on the driver's side a few times for areas like where I'm at right now, where I'm parked next to a grassy spot or woods. One thing that my Freightliner did not have, which was very unusual because I have not seen very many trucks that don't have the upper windows, but for some reason my last Freightliner did not have these upper windows, and these are really nice for me because they got screens in them. They're up high, so I don't have to worry about anyone fucking with me at night, and I can leave them cracked, you know, in the summer to let a little air in, and in the winter leave it a little cracked so it doesn't dry out so much in here. Same thing on the driver's side. You got your upper window and your lower window that I don't hardly ever use at all. One thing I do like is that emergency exit switch. If you flip that lever, it makes that whole window section open right up so you can climb out that side. It's supposedly only for emergencies, but if the truck does catch on fire, it's generally in the front, and it's a possibility you could get trapped in here and not be able to get out. It's kind of something I've thought about a few times. And then just your basic sleeper berth controls. You got your lights. That does have the door lock, so if you're laying in the bunk wondering if you remember to lock the door, you can hit that. Refrigerator switch, alarm clock and shit. This is for when the truck's running, you can run your climate control. This is for when the truck's off, you can run the climate control. It does have the upper bunk, which I guess would be nice if you had somebody along with you. I can't really imagine having anybody in here for a very long time. Maybe bring a friend or a girlfriend for a week or something, but I wouldn't want to do a team operation in this truck, that's for sure.